Welcome to Hickory Street Podcast. I'm Michael Zamora, and we are here with Jeremiah of Tuba Steven Records.
That's right.
Right? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've only come across your record label through a friend of mine, Gabe.
Oh, Gabe Tompkins?
Yeah, I discovered you guys through social media. Mm-hmm. Just like finding something on his page about you guys. I think he tagged you in something. So if you could just kind of like tell me, what when you started it and when you moved to Denton, and kind of the backstory of how you got this going.
Yeah, that's fun that you met us through Gabe. He's been a friend of the family for years. He and his parents and my parents went to college together, and so I've known him since I was a baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My brother was the drummer in a band with him in high school, and so we've known him forever.
Cool.
So
Bliss?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
So the drummer of Bliss was your brother?
Yeah, my brother Jameson.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyways, go ahead.
So we founded in March 2020. So right as the pandemic started to really shut everything down, like once it was April, everything was closed. Every venue we would have wanted to play at was closed. So we started putting it together then, and I moved to Denton when I started at UNT in 2019. And so it started during my freshman year, and then when everything closed, we had to shift everything online, like a lot of people did, and so we started doing weekly live streams. We called them Quarren streams on our Instagram and Facebook page.
Cool. And, through the record label?
Yeah,
like the page? Okay.
Through our like social media platforms, and because we had live concerts that we were working on booking and planning and everything, and since all of that had to take a back seat, for a little over a year, so we were doing everything, just live streams on our social media page. We had a couple of our artists release music during that time, but we started to grow it even during the pandemic, adding more and more artists to the team. We put together a compilation record that came out a year after we founded, so in March 2021, and that was part of a charity campaign to support Aphelion, which is a local nonprofit that raises money to promote girls' education worldwide.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was...
That name sounds familiar, but I don't think I ever heard exactly what it was.
Yeah, they're a small student-led nonprofit. The high school I went to is where it operates. That's like all of the students from that. Some of the students from that school founded it years ago.
What high school did you go to?
It's a tiny school called E.A. Young Academy. I went to a couple schools, but that's where I graduated from.
Oh, okay. Is it like a private school?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was a private school.
Cool.
I went to a bunch of different schools, but that was the best one, and they had a lot of dedicated students there who put together that nonprofit. So I've done work with them before. I've put together, I did a benefit concert with them in 2019. So Oleo, which is our compilation record, was, a way to raise money and awareness for them, and then also to help get our name out there a little bit. So that came out in March, and now we're just starting to get into actually doing live shows. So we had our first in-person evening of music at Rubber Gloves last Wednesday, and
cool.
So now we're starting to get in the swing of doing actual live events. But so it's been a year of trying to grow during a pandemic, which is tough, but we've managed to do a lot of cool stuff in the last year.
That's awesome, man. I've never played Rubber Gloves, but I've been there a few times, and one of my favorite bands, their first band started here in Denton, and they used to have a rehearsal spot there. So whenever Rubber Gloves opened back up, they were one of the first touring bands to come and play.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I didn't get to go because I had to work, but I really love that place. It's a great venue. For sure. So that's cool that you were able to set it up there and have a show. So So it was purely like your record label's show.
Yeah, we booked the whole evening from 9 to midnight. We had 4 of our artists come in and play over those 3 hours, which was great because we got to set the tone for the whole evening, you know. And the crowd that we brought out was all, or you know, there were plenty of people who I'm sure frequent Rubber Gloves or were interested in live music, but you know, most of the crowd that we brought out was like our people, I guess. So it had a really fun vibe. It was a really great night. Rubber Gloves is a fantastic venue. The people there are really great, and so we hope to be back there soon. But yeah, it was a perfect way to start getting into actual in-person live events because it's such a great venue. We set up a merch table selling some of our Oleo t-shirts, and all of that is still for that charity campaign. So yeah, that was great. We had the debut performance of Velvet Overkill, which is one of our new artists. They're a duo, and then we had Gabe and his band that is still settling on a name, so they just went by the Gabe Tompkins Experience for that show. And then I did a set, and my dad actually did a set. Come from a family of musicians, so it was a really fun night.
Cool. What do you play, and what does your dad play?
I do guitar is my main instrument. I play a little bit of bass, and in middle school I did percussion, so I've always been interested in drums, but I've never played drum kit for a band. But I do guitar and bass for the Hildies, which is the band that I'm in. And then my dad, mostly guitar and vocals. So he did a solo set, and then for some of the songs, my brother joined him on drum kit. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow. So you've been sort of rocking and rolling as soon as you can, and even before you could. That's right. Awesome, man. You're actually the first person on the podcast that I didn't know personally before, so this is kind of cool, and it's also kind of cool that I keep like running into people that know the people that I know.
Sure.
You know, like
all mutual friends.
I've been in the local scene for quite a while now. So like now I'm starting to meet people that are like once, twice removed from my friends group, you know, and it's been quite a while since I've seen Gabe. I think the last time I saw Gabe was like maybe even 6 months to a year before the pandemic even happened, so it's been like 2 years. I know he was living here in Denton for a while, and then I think he moved back to where he was from. Where is that?
In Plano.
Plano. Okay, so I think he moved back to Plano for a little while, and then he moved back out here. But like I didn't see him whenever he moved back out here. I just like saw it on social media. Right. Maybe he was just hanging out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he and his bandmates I think they found a place, or they're working on finding a place out here right now, so that they can set up like a home studio and just practice every day. I was surprised that you knew Bliss. Had you like heard of them just through Gabe, or did you ever see them play, or what?
Yeah, we played with them.
Really?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times, I think.
Cool. I might have met you then years ago, because since Jameson, my brother, was the drummer, I was at just about every show. So,
really? Yeah. You. I mean, it's possible. I might not have talked to anybody, but we played together, I think twice at J&J's, and then once at a house venue. So you said you started college in 2019?
Yeah.
You would have been... You would have had to have been in high school still then, because like I played with him once in a band that I used to play bass in. I used to play bass and sing in a punk band called the Delzells.
Oh, okay.
And we played with Bliss once, and that's sort of how I got introduced to them. But like I think Posable ended up playing with Bliss like two other times after that. I don't know. It's all a blur now.
Yeah, that's like
it was like 2 years ago now. It's weird to think that like for a year nothing happened. But
yeah, the Bliss days were like a different chapter of my experience in local music, because it was before I was in a band, before I was So I was their quote unquote manager. Starting when I was 13, I think, when I was in middle school, and they were all in high school, because they started, like, I think early in high school playing together and played through college. And I think by the time they kind of split up, stopped playing, I was still, like, maybe like in my junior or senior year of high school. But so I was helping them book shows when I was pretty young, and that was like my little foray into this. You know, like I credit that as like the kind of the reason why I'm doing this record label is that I just loved that experience and wanted to keep that going. And as I got, you know, older and more experienced in the music scene, it became easier to just like, I built up connections from the time I was really young, and I knew venues, and you know, but it's fun to.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was kind of a blessing that you knew Gabe from such an early age, because he got so heavy into music, and then you met so many people at like a young age through him. You know, that's really cool.
He's great at networking for sure. He just about everybody I meet in the Denton music community seems to know who he is. So he definitely, you know, my time hanging out with Bliss, thinking they were the coolest band in the world, and going to every show and helping them book shows and everything was definitely the perfect way for me to, you know, dip my toes in the water, I guess, in this scene. So yeah, it's those were good times.
Cool. So you mentioned you're going to college right now. What are you going for?
My major is called Integrative Studies. So.
Oh, okay. I know what that is.
Yeah. So my fields are history, political science, and geography. And right now, I'm interested in teaching. So those would just be the subjects I would teach. Both my parents are teachers, so education is something that I, you know, am comfortable with. I know that I've had some teaching experience as a teacher's assistant, and then this summer a full-time teacher at a educational summer program, and so you know, I've changed my plan a lot, who knows, but that's something I'm definitely interested in doing. And then my plan is to always keep being involved with music. The record label, certainly at the scope that it operates right now, is something I could continue to do with whatever I end up using my degree for. So.
Cool, man. That's awesome. So whenever it comes to your personal music, is it just kind of a solo project, or do you have like a band that you're playing with? Or?
Yeah. So the 4 people who founded the label are all me, and the 3 others are all the members of the Hildies, which is a band, an indie rock band in Denton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's right. You mentioned the Hildies earlier.
And so we put out a self-produced, just, you know, recorded at home EP. I think that was in October 2019, and then followed it up with, we went in with Nathan Clark, who you might know, who's a producer in Denton, and did our second EP with him called Kudos. That came out in April 2020, so that was the first release on the label, was that EP. Since then, we haven't gotten to do as much, just because one of our members currently is in Georgetown, and you know, with the pandemic, we just didn't, for a year, we didn't really get to practice or do anything. We intend on continuing to make music together, but we just haven't gotten to do much. So in that time, I've started to explore solo music making, and so like I put out my first. It's Oleo, the compilation album we did was a demo compilation, and so I had 2 or 3 songs on there that were just demos I had done on my phone, which was my first like way of testing the waters of putting out some solo music. And then the Rubber Glove show was my first time ever performing by myself, you know, just me with an acoustic guitar. And so I'm starting to get into that. I really like lately it's been for me all about like acoustic music, so that kind of lends itself nicely to doing solo work. But I always want to play with a band if I can as well. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, I used to have a well, I guess I still do. I don't write many. It's kind of funny. I don't write many acoustic songs, but every song I write on an acoustic guitar. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have a project that like purely for just all of my acoustic songs, and I call it Shelter. And I think I went like 4 years or something without releasing anything on it, but I put out like a second album of a few years ago, and basically I just sort of pick through everything that I write and then figure out like, okay, these are songs that I wrote specifically for acoustic that don't have anything to do with a band idea or whatever, and so I'll throw them onto that project that I just like periodically. I don't ever play shows as it. I've played those songs, but I've always like mixed them in with some of my band songs, like in a set or something. But that's cool. I really appreciate acoustic music, and I find myself listening to a lot of like more mellow music in general, which is kind of funny because we're a punk band and we write some aggressive like lyrics and just aggressive songs in general.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you played the show in Rubber Gloves. Do you have other stuff lined up already?
Yeah, the next show that we have for sure on the calendar is on August 15th. We're doing a show at UNT in the Union.
Hell yeah.
So the bookstore is wanting to get into like hosting local bands, and so their first concert is going to be us on August 15th from 6 to 9. We're playing like freshman welcome party for the new class. So
that's awesome exposure.
Yeah, for sure. So so I don't have all the details on that yet because we just started confirming everything with them, but that's the next one on the calendar. We're hoping to get more lined up for the rest of this month and into August. We'd love to be back at Rubber Glove soon. I'm reaching out to some other venues, but that freshman welcome party should be pretty big. Should be a fun night. So we'll have more details on that soon, but that's the next one that's coming up.
Cool. Yeah, they used to, I'm sure they still do, but they used to have these concerts right outside the Union on the like patio at night. Mm-hmm. They would have like an open mic thing. So like I remember walking, because I used to take a few classes like close to like 6 o'clock that were like 3 hours long. So I would get out at like 9 o'clock, and sometimes on my way to the class or on my way back from the class, if we got out early, I'd see people up there doing stand-up or doing poetry or just playing a guitar. So I've always appreciated UNT's active role in allowing non-professional musicians to play on their campus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like non-music majors to be included in the events on campus. I always thought that was cool.
Yeah, they seem to, in my experience, do a really great job of embracing the fact that they're situated in the heart of a live music in a local music town. I even did, I did that benefit concert with Aphelion, and then I did a second benefit concert with the charity's called Got3, Givers of Time, Talent, and Treasure, and they raise money for child cancer research, and we did it at the Syndicate in the Union, and we partnered with the UPC, University Program Council, which does like most of the big campus-wide events, and
that's cool.
Yeah, so and UNT and the UPC were, everyone was super helpful and supportive of that, and it was all local artists who came in and played, Denton-based artists, and so at least in the experience I've had, they seem, and even with this show coming up in August, they specifically mentioned when they emailed me about it that like they're excited to showcase local talent, and so that's something that I really appreciate about UNT for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many different musicians that have affiliations with this town and UNT in general. It's really cool to see and I guess be a part of it in some small way. I feel like I'm not nearly as active and plugged into the scene as I should be. I sort of stopped going to see shows for a while, like even before the pandemic. I did go out and see some, but like directly before. and I played some like directly before, but since things have opened back up, I haven't really been seeking it out, and so I feel kind of like lost in a way from what happened pre-pandemic and then what's happening now. Like I feel like I haven't just enjoyed the same activities as a person, and I think that maybe there's a certain level of just priorities. Like I've prioritized different things in my life now at this stage, but I really enjoy music and the music community, and I really enjoy talking to people. So that's why this podcast really works for me and what I want to do. And I'm happy that there's a younger generation coming up that's still wanting to play music live with real instruments and have a record label and seek it out. It's really cool to see the enthusiasm, man. So that's just a compliment for me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So what are your overall goals for the record label? Do you have some specific things planned out? Do you have some new artists that you're kind of talking to, and can you even say that who they are or something?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're always open to as we are able to grow a little bit more. We have, it's currently like a fairly informal setup. We're at the state we're in right now. It's not a contractual kind of signing process. It's more of we see it right now as a community of artists who are helping to support and promote each other. And so in total, we had 14, 15 different artists featured on our compilation album. That's kind of our current group of people who we'll pull from for live shows. And as it grows more, it might become a bit more quote unquote official, I guess, who's signed and who's officially involved. But we have, so I mentioned Velvet Overkill, who did their debut performance with us at Rubber Gloves. So they just got started. They're phenomenally talented, great singers, great instrumentalists, really great songwriters. They opened up the show at Rubber Gloves and did just a fantastic job. One of the new artists that we have that we're super excited about is West, like the Direction is his name. My friend Michael West. Which I love the story of that name. He said it's basically that he, when he's telling people his name, he so frequently they'll say you say West, and he's like, yeah, like the Direction. So West, like the Direction. He's got he has an album coming out through us on Halloween this year is the plan. So we'll have plenty more info on that as it gets closer, but we're planning on doing the full digital release and a vinyl release and some other merch options that we can announce soon. But so he put out the first music he ever put out. He was actually the guitarist in Bliss, the second guitarist early on. I don't know if you would have met him because
I don't think so.
Yeah, by the time Bliss was playing in Denton, that was after he had left the group, and so I doubt you got to meet him. But this is his solo project, and he had 3 songs on Oleo, the compilation record, and so those 3 are all from their demo versions of songs that are going to be on his album called Underworld, coming out in October. So that's one of the big releases we have coming up. Gabe's group, which, like I said earlier, they don't have an official name yet. They're toying with a few options, but they have a release in September. So we'll have September and October both lined up with releases. And then Terry Tompkins, this is one of the cool things about the label is that it's multi-generational already. So we have people who are part of my generation of the music community putting out music, but then we have Terry is Gabe's dad, and he's been playing live music since he was our age. So for the last few decades, he's been both in Atlanta, Georgia, and then in Dallas, involved in the music scenes. And He's working on a single that's coming out in November, so that's September, October, November. Trying to line something up for December so we can just go straight through the year. But yeah, so we have a few releases upcoming, some solo stuff and some band stuff. So yeah, and as far as new artists, that's just going to be, we'll just have to see, as we grow. We're a small team right now, and so we want to make sure that we have the right number of artists that we can fully support. But as our team grows, I imagine our list of artists will grow as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So who is part of the team? Is it everyone in your band, or is it some other people?
Yeah, so it's currently there's 5 of us who I would say are actively involved in running and promoting the label, which is myself, and then the 3 other members of the Hildies. So my brother Jameson, who is going to be, we have a website up right now, but we sort of did like a soft launch where we put it live, but we haven't started to really promote it yet because he's going to work on getting some more content up there. Mariah, who does bass, guitar, and vocals with us as well. We do a lot of switching instruments, but so Mariah helps with our social media stuff, and then Avery, who does vocals in the group, is in charge of like all of our graphics. So she's done album art, she's done posters, social media, creating content for social media as well. So she's been great with all of that. And then Terry, who I mentioned, is sort of our like go-to executive producer figure. So he's got, experience and wisdom that we don't, and he's helped to fund some of the projects we've done. He's given a lot of creative input. He's helped guide us on the more like businessy side of things as we navigate things like copyright and artist registration through like BMI, ASCAP, setting up bank accounts, all the financial stuff. He's a financial advisor by trade and then musician by night. So
wow.
So he's kind of perfect for helping us with that.
Yeah.
But, that would be like, I guess, our core team. But then to a great degree, all of the artists who were on Oleo have contributed something, at least their music. Some of them have given a lot of input. We have Velvet Overkill. Both of them are moving down to Austin because they're starting college this year, and they've already talked about helping to set up gigs down there so that we can start working in both the Denton, DFW area and in Austin. So everybody's just been, helping out. But I would say that's like our core team, is those 5.
That's really cool. Our drummer actually lives in Austin.
Oh, cool.
So we started booking shows there right before the pandemic happened. We played there twice or like 3 times, and then the pandemic happened, so we've been unplugged from that area. And you know what, my bass player told me I needed to hit that guy up about a show down there. I haven't talked to him in so long. I should probably get on that. I've been kind of lazy recently, just haven't been on it. But I love Austin just in general. The city's really cool. Traffic isn't nearly as bad as it is in Dallas, which is kind of crazy because I think more people live in Austin than in Dallas.
It's also just like, it's a really nice walkable city too.
Yeah.
It's nice to just
stroll around
for sure,
like midnight. Well, certain parts, obviously. I think 6th Street is, last I heard, is kind of bad or something. But
so we're hoping to set up some shows there too once they get situated down there.
Cool. Well, it'd be awesome to see you guys do something down there in Austin. That'd be really cool. There's a lot of musicians that have come from this area that moved down there. Yeah, actually, I've noticed that, especially experienced musicians, and it makes sense because it's like the music capital of the world or whatever, or the U.S. But
Acid Carousel did that, right? I mean, they started here and then just moved to Austin like this past year. Yeah,
I ran into Gus last summer. We were skating. No, it wasn't last summer. Was it? Yeah, it was last summer. I ran into Gus last summer. We were skating and he had told me that I think one of his uncles or something like that owns a house there, so they were able to get into that house.
Oh, that's cool.
So that is really cool. But anyways, yeah. So do you have plans of a solo album?
That's something I've thought about. The more I write music with like my quote unquote solo project in mind, I would really love to put together some kind of collection. I was also really inspired by what Michael did with his album Underworld. That we all of us in the Hildies actually helped back him up on like doing harmonies and instrumentation on the album, but he wrote all the music himself, and it's just a phenomenally composed album. And so that was a big inspiration. I would love to do something like that, even if I enlisted the support of friends and family who are in my little artist community who do music to help me with it. But it would be a first for me, for sure. The only music I've put out has been with a group where it's like a collaborative songwriting process, and so doing it myself would be a new venture for sure. And it's kind of what you were saying earlier, except I'm flip-flopped, where like I would say my comfort zone of music is like really heavy, loud, power chord rock kind of stuff. Like I'm a big grunge guy, and for a while I tried to write music like that, where I would just set up with a distortion pedal on my electric guitar and just like hammer at some power chord combinations and see what I could do. But I pretty quickly figured out that my voice doesn't fit with that. I don't sound like Kurt Cobain, and I shouldn't try to. And I have a kind of gentle singing voice, I guess. And the more I start learning how to use it, I think leaning into that is better. I get benefits to songs. And so that's why I've started, despite what I listen to a lot of the time. I listen to a little bit of everything, but that's, like I said, kind of my comfort zone. And so despite that, I've been writing almost exclusively just with my acoustic guitar, softer kind of mellow music, to lean into that, the softer voice that I just naturally have. And so the more comfortable I get with singing, because that's the biggest thing I struggle with is singing, for sure. And so the more comfortable I get with that, I would love to do that. I've had phenomenal experiences working with Nathan Clark, and if I could save up some money and write enough songs, I would love to do a solo album with him. But we'll see. We'll see if I can get together enough music I'm proud of. Yeah,
you mentioned him earlier, and I don't think I've ever met him. If I did meet him, it was probably just in passing, and I didn't know who he was, other than just the guy at the show. Mm-hmm. But I know that he started following the podcast page, I think, on social media, and he looks familiar. So I'm not sure how you know him, but he seems to be plugged into the scene quite a bit. So he's a musician himself, then?
Yeah, he's in. Let's see. I don't think I can get all the names but he's in. Allegheny Drive is, I think, the main band he's involved with. He also is in Just Mothers, and then he has a solo.
Oh, he's
project.
In Just Mothers.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a friend, Jameson, who runs Stay Positive Records.
Yeah, Jameson Richter.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I'm in a band with him too, Spacehead, cool. The band I play drums in.
Yeah.
So he introduced me to Dust Mothers. Okay. And whenever I listened to it, I was like, "Oh shit, this is really good."
Yeah, the album.
This is really cool.
It's very good.
So I didn't realize that he was in Dust Mothers though. Is he a guitar player, or what is he? What is he doing there?
I'll probably get this wrong because I forget what he does with each band, but I want to say he's their drummer. He might do guitar with one of the groups, but drums are, I think, his main thing. He's an experienced drummer. He's a really talented drummer.
Cool.
But yeah, I forget what he plays with them, with Dust Mothers, but it's guitar or drums. But and then he has a home studio. He's 2 minutes from our house, which is great because when we worked on Michael's album, which we recorded with him, Michael came to stay with us. He was living in Austin, and then he came to stay with us for a couple weeks while we did the album, and so we just wake up 2 minutes before we need to leave and go right over to Nathan's house. But yeah, he's recorded with like everybody. He did Bad Dad Joke stuff. He did New Avenues. He had Said the People recently went into the studio with him. We did our album with Michael through him. We did the Hildy's EP Kudos.
So he records too.
Yeah, he's a fantastic producer. He's working on he's going to co-produce Gabe's group's album and Terry's single. Basically, he's like our go-to producer guy for all of the Tuba Steven artists. Anytime I have somebody who's interested in recording, I send them to him because he's crazy talented. I love the way he mixes. He's super flexible and nice and just like a really great guy to work with. And his bands are awesome. So we've joked about starting a Nathan Clark Appreciation Club because he's just the best. We love that guy.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, let's see. What was my question before we started talking about? I don't even remember what I asked.
Yeah, I mean, you were asking how I met him, which was just when I met him through Justin Peele, if you know him.
Okay. Yeah, he was in Bad Dad Joke.
Yeah, everything goes back to Bliss. Justin was the bassist in Bliss, and so that's where I first met him. He was a friend of Gabe's.
I didn't know that.
Really? Okay.
I didn't know that he was. Well, you know what? I feel like I saw him play one show with Bliss.
If y'all played together at J&J's, that would have been Justin doing bass with them.
It would have been him then? Okay, so he must... Okay, so that's where... Maybe that's why I got confused whenever I saw him at... Okay, so there was... Okay, so that got a funny story. So there was one time I went to Fannin House, and I got really drunk and saw Bad Dad Jokes play. And afterwards, I was like talking to the guys, and I was talking to them as if I had never met them before. But I had apparently met Justin before, and Justin was like, I know you. We've met before. And I was like... and so, like, now, this is like 3 years later, I'm putting it together that's where I would have known him from.
Probably was.
It was from Bliss. That's so funny.
Everything ties back.
Justin's a cool guy.
He's a really cool guy.
I think he's still living with NT, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Aren't they living together?
I think he's right now. He's got an apartment just with him and his dog.
Okay.
But I think he was with NT for a while. And he's been with Bad Dad Jokes. He did bass on, I think, their first like 2 or 3 releases. But yeah, so he did when he recorded with Nathan. He just, he told me about how great Nathan did, and said if we were ever looking to record with somebody, that he would be the guy. So that's how we got hooked up with Nathan. But yeah, Justin's great. He's a close friend. He's been a friend for years. Since the Bliss days, so very cool guy. Yeah, I'm trying to get him I want him to come play some solo stuff, because he writes music all the time. He's a very prolific songwriter. Everything he sent me, demos and finished songs and stuff, is fantastic. He had some music on Olio that was solo. I'm going to make fun of him a little bit, because he was going to play at the Rubber Glove show, and then decided he didn't want to do the solo thing yet. So we just got to get his confidence up, I guess. But he's great. He's a great songwriter, great guy.
Cool. So are you at all nervous about trying to juggle school and then this music thing this year as things have opened up again? Yeah,
it's almost like the more opportunities we have now that things are opening up, there's also a bit more pressure to like really invest a lot of time in it, because the more time that I can give it, the greater the outcome is going to be, I think. Like the more love and energy I can put into every show that we get and booking more shows, the more the label can take off in the area, and people will start to, know our name, recognize our logo, recognize our bands, and want to come out to our shows. But I balanced it okay, I think, last year, although that was also when all the classes were online and asynchronous, so I wasn't having to go to class, even on Zoom. Like, all my classes were just, I had deadlines and I just had to meet them and do the work on my time as long as I met those. And so, I'm a little nervous about once school, I've got, I think, 2 in-person classes and then the rest are online, so I'm kind of easing back in. So I think that'll help because I'm not going back to a fully in-person schedule and then still trying to balance the label as it grows a little bit and as we have live shows. So I think I'll use the fall semester as a transition period where I have like a little less than half my schedule is in person and the rest is online. So I'm not too worried about it. It's definitely been something I've been thinking about just because...
This is going to be your 3rd year in?
Yeah.
Whenever I was in college, that's whenever the workload got a little heavier.
Sure,
I was working full-time at a job in Louisville for my first 2 years, and I was able to manage it pretty well. But then, like the 3rd year, there started to be certain classes that were only offered like at one time because the pool of people that are still in college that take those classes is smaller. Right. So, I hope that you can find a way to balance it, and hopefully you can do something like that where you can do half online or something. Leading up to the end, like before I graduated, that's sort of how I had it set up. I took like half online classes, and then my last semester I just took all online classes. So.
Yeah, I definitely I prefer in person in most ways. I think it's a better experience, but I will say the flexibility that I had last year was really nice, just because I still had the same amount of work, but I had no class time, and class time is, a big time commitment every week and every day. Yeah. And so last year I was able to balance the schoolwork I needed to, largely with the label and and personal stuff, just because a big part of that was having the extra free time and the flexibility in my schedule, because as long as I could meet assignment deadlines, I made my own schedule basically every week. So as much as I love the in-person thing and want to get back to that at least partially, I'm curious to see how fall will go, because I think I'm going to like this balance where I have some in-person opportunities, but most of my schedule, or at least a good chunk of my schedule, will be flexible like that. I think that might be a good way to balance it. I'm minoring in music business and entrepreneurship, which is a new minor that they started at UNT last fall, and so that's also I've been able to use some of my class time in those classes to work on label business, basically. Last semester, the intro class I took for that minor was I got to spend a lot of time just thinking about marketing for the label. I took a social media marketing class where my final project, which was what we worked on the entire class, was just a social media marketing plan for Tuba Stephen Records. So that's another trick, is just combining school and label time into one.
It's cool that you get to do that sometimes.
Yeah. I've loved this minor for that. It's very, they encourage it. They want us in that minor to be have our own, entrepreneurial ventures started, and so they encourage us to really explore that with our class projects, combine what we're doing in our own musical life and what we're doing in class. So that's been great. That's as opposed to being extra work, that's actually been a way to kind of use school time to be productive on both. So yeah, so we'll see. This next semester will be a test for sure.
Yeah. Cool, man. We are, what was that, say 48? We're close to about the 50-minute mark. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything that you didn't get to talk about? Any plans that...
Let's see. We have, one of the things that I sort of mentioned earlier was that we're going to start really promoting the website soon. We just wanted to get...
You have a website already?
Yeah.
Okay.
TubaStephenRecords.com is active right now, and it has some basic info on our artists and on the label. I mean, it looks great. We spent a lot of time getting it to look nice and have some good content on it. But like, we have these shirts that we made that Justin made, actually. He did the screen printing on them.
Cool.
But we want to be able to sell them online because we have some people who have like requested shirts, but they're not in the area, so they can't come out to shows. We're just selling them at the merch table. So big goal of ours is to get, as soon as possible, an online shop set up so people can buy shirts, posters, stickers, whatever. So that's all coming. We also have Oleo CDs that we're just making in-house that will be up there. So I guess just, keep an eye out for that. People should check out the website. It's in kind of an early state right now, but it's going to continue to be, we'll have more content added, especially with these live shows. We'll have a lot of, new media to put up there, I guess. But, we covered most of just about everything I would want to. We got all the releases coming up through the rest of the year, so people just keep an eye out for that, and we'll keep booking live shows, so everyone should come out August 15th to the Union. Yeah, that's the next one on the calendar.
Okay.
And then we'll try to have some even before then. I want to start, we have so many artists that were featured on the compilation album that I would love to just be able to have a show every week, just cycling, between different artists who want to perform. So, yeah, we just got a lot of things brewing, so people should definitely keep an eye out.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on.
Of course.
And your primary source of information, where is it normally spread out? Is it on the website? Is it on Facebook? Is it on...
It's Instagram is our main social media platform, for sure. We use our Facebook page to share some bigger announcements and stuff, but day-to-day content is Instagram. And then the goal is for the website to become a hub for everything, but we also understand that most people check social media more frequently than they'll visit an individual website. So we want the website to be a big landing page to have all of our media, all of links to individual pages for artists, info on the people who run the label, all that kind of stuff. But if people are interested in our day-to-day content, Instagram is definitely the place to go. We're just at Tuba Stephen Records.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on the show. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you in person.
I'll try to make it out to a show that you guys put on sometime.
We'd love to have you.
All right.